Back, Lee Haney was my training partner.
That's right.
1984, went into the Nationals. I was training for the Nationals, and back then the Mr. Universe to turn pro. Lee Haney was going into his first Mr. Olympia.
And I was graduating high school. Go ahead.
Yeah. We're still close in age, though, but
yeah, that's true.
So I was only 21.
Yeah, you're a baby.
So I moved to California for a full year to turn pro. And I trained with Lee Haney that year. I won the Nationals, won the Mr. Universe. Lee Haney won his first Mr. Olympia. Going forward, I went into the Night of the Champions, got second to Albert Beckles.
Right.
And then the first Mr. Olympia, my first try, I got third. I go, wow, this is easy. But then after that, I had 3 second places. It was a lot tougher than I thought. And
so when you first heard about the Arnold Classic, you had to be chomping at the bit because Lee Haney wasn't interested in that.
Yeah, what happened was actually I wasn't really going to go into the Arnold Classic. I just did the Mr. Olympia, and I went to
Rimini, right?
88 in California,
LA. That's right.
in LA, and then I did 7 Grand Prix shows.
Right, they had a tour.
So I won 4 out of the 7 against Lee Labrada, who won 3.
Yeah.
I was very burnt out, and then right after those shows, I get a call. This is Arnold. I would like you to go into my first Arnold Classic. So I said to him, I couldn't say no. I was like, I really didn't want to compete, and he goes, "This is going to be great. You're going to be on TV. It's going to be everything good." He was right. I got into the Jay Leno. I was on Tonight Show.
That's right. Yes.
With Mike Chris, you end up not entering the show. Back then, there was a show called Wide World of Sports,
right?
In which they did a whole, feature on me and my life, and I'm an Italian with my parents there eating their dinner, and I was eating my meal out of my container
on TV.
Nice.
And
it was a great experience. I mean, it's nothing like this is today. 30 years later, this is just, it's grown so big. The biggest thing about that show is, they were challenging the Mr. Olympia.
That's right.
Because the prize money the year before was $25,000. Arnold brought it to $55,000 for the Arnold Classic.
On the first
so from that point on, then the Olympia had to do 60, and then 65 and 70, and just kept going up.
It changed the game.
It changed the
now
game.
The Olympia is like 400,000. Now you've been around the world as a result of the bodybuilding industry, and you've been giving back to the Arnold Classic ever since you won the Arnold Classic. How do you feel about coming back here now? 25 years, you had the Lifetime Achievement Award from Arnold.
It was an honor.
There's really not too many more accolades you can get. You're already in the IFBB Bodybuilding Hall of Fame. But when you see this and you walk through the crowds and you're giving out those awards to those amateurs that have the same dream and vision that you do, what's going through your mind?
I was that young, inspiring kid. When I was in the gym, I wanted to be that champion. And I always said if I could have a mentor, someone to help me. Mine was Arnold when I used to read him in the magazine.
Right.
I wanted to, give back to these young, inspiring bodybuilders. When I see the Arnold Amateur and I see these guys, going in that show, to become that next pro or the next Mr. Olympia, the next Kai Green. I can relate to it. And it feels like I'm giving back to something, and those people can then, give to others. So that's been like what I love doing. I've been doing this now, like I said, since I started when I was 13 years old, and I'm 54 years old.
Kai, where were you? Where were you when he was winning that first 1989? Can you remember back that far? Where were you?
Whoa.
Where were you? 1989.
I was a very young guy.
I
was a little guy. I was so little. I was little. Yeah, but I looked like the oldest man on the stage.
But was bodybuilding, was it on your radar at that time in 1989?
Oh, absolutely.
You were already into
absolutely, it, huh? Absolutely. But it was still so far away, In fact, to be very honest, it was the women's bodybuilding that served as a bridge for me as a prepubescent to kind of make the mental leap of how my body could go from being this prepubescent little guy, to having the kind of muscle that I saw you guys had at that time. It was just really, it was almost too much. I needed a Carla Dunlap or a Laura Beaudry or somebody in between to kind of bridge the gap for me mentally to be able to be prepared to jump.
Now, Rich, the story, you've told it a million times, but making that transition from the stage, because you were like Branch Warren, I mean, you were like the blue collar bodybuilder, to walk away from the idea of competition, which I believe was 95?
I actually got injured 1997.
Okay, and did that do it for you? Like the reality of no more bodybuilding competition?
In 1997, yeah, I herniated a disc in my neck, blew that out. Basically, I was getting ready for the New York Pro, and I just couldn't enter the show, and I sat there while I was still, in bed where I couldn't move, and I said, I got to do something else. I was a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I got to do something else, and it came to me. I said, I was always a technician in bodybuilding. Supplementation were a big part of my regimen. I felt that, I didn't have as good a genetics as some other bodybuilders, but I was able to overcome that through nutrition, dieting, keeping logs, and I felt, you know what? I want to get into the nutrition game.
Well, you did more than just get into the nutrition game, and you brought on athletes like James Flex Lewis and Branch Warren and Hidetada Yamagishi, and you've changed their games as well through your products, and you're global. How many countries is Gaspari Nutrition in?
We're all over the world. We're probably in, like you talk about, 50 countries. We're in Australia, New Zealand, South America, and all the various countries, Mexico, Canada, Europe. I mean, there's just so many countries that Gaspari's in.
That you've actually competed and you've visited.
Yeah, it's funny because the bodybuilding helped me, with traveling and having those connections and using those, with the supplement. It's a different game when you become the guy selling stuff.
Sure.
You're not that athlete that's being wined and dined. You have to wine and dine them.
Yes.
So it's a different story, and you have to be a businessman. And, bodybuilding taught me to be disciplined, which helped me be a better businessman.
Right.
And
can't take that away from you.
No, and it's something I always say. Bodybuilding is a great thing that helped me a lot in being that businessman.
Well, you've been giving so much back. We're going to give a little something from one of our sponsors. Kai, what time is it?
I believe it's swole o'clock.
Talk about it. What is it? It is a watch, correct? Rich, our sponsor, Swole Clock, has chosen you as to be one of our recipients of one of the watches of champions. This is what the bodybuilders wear. You can pull it out of there. Go ahead and take it out and show these guys. This is
big watches.
No ordinary watch. Is this, Kai?
I'm a big watch
not
guy.
At all. Not at all.
The Swole Clock, it keeps you on time.
Beautiful watch.
All right. All the big heavy hitters got that, and I'm sure they're going to be asking you where you got it, and you're going to tell them where? Swole O'Clock.
Swole O'Clock.
That's what's up.
You got that over there?
Yeah, I got it. Okay. All right. So
commercial by Kai Green.
This commercial by Kai Green.